Hey, and welcome to a new month of Number Corner, where every month we have some new workouts to do. And sometimes they're similar, and sometimes they are an extension of what we've already done. Well, I can tell you that today we're going to be playing a game, and it's all about the mystery grid. And it is an extension of things that we've done in the past because we'll have to use our knowledge of multiplication, factors, factor pairs, area, all those fun things. And when we use them, we'll be able to figure out what is happening with our mystery grid. Are you ready? All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, make myself just a little bit smaller, and I want you to make some observations about what's happening on my teacher master. What are you seeing? Awesome. So there's some clues down here. We know that there's going to be some red area, some blue area, green and purple. And there's this hidden box right here, which I'm not going to reveal to you until after the game so we can check our answers. But what I will say is underneath this flap right here is actually the answer key. And it's going to show us what colors go where. So there are rectangles, 4 rectangles, one red, one blue, one green, one purple, that they fit perfectly together. And if you were to add up all their areas, it would be 100 square units, which is hopefully what you noticed is the area of this whole mystery grid game board. There are no gaps in between those rectangles, and so your job is going to be to figure out exactly what the dimensions are for each rectangle. Now we have some clues here. We know that red is going to have an area of 36 square units. Blue is going to have an area of 20 square units. Green, 32 square units, and purple, 12 square units. So before we actually start the game, I want to make sure you guys understand how to mark, how to use this coordinate grid to tell me exactly what you're thinking in terms of dimensions for our rectangles. So I'm going to mark a square, and I want you to think about how you would describe this square or the location of this square to someone else. Right, so you could say it's in the 6th row, in the 6th column, or in the 6th column in the 6th row. I will tell you that when you are labeling or when you are describing a certain space, the first number is going to tell us the column, and the second number is going to tell us what row we need to look at. And that one was probably a little tricky because they have the same numbers. So let me do another example. How about this one? Now that we know the first number is going to represent the column and the second number represents the row, what might you say if I asked you to describe the location of this square? Good, it is 6, 3. So we do the column first and then we do the row. Let's do one more. How about that one? Good. Second column, so it will be 2. And we went up to the 8th row. So it will be 2, 8. Right? You think you got the hang of it? All right. Well, let's see. I want you to open up your Number Corner journal to find your grid because we're going to color it in together. And you coloring it in, as well as me coloring it in with you, is going to help us narrow down our thoughts on the dimensions of each of these rectangles that, again, fit perfectly together. No overlaps, no space in between, to fill up the area of 100 square units. So I believe it's on page 39. Go ahead and I'll give you a few minutes to get there. And once you're there, I am going to let you guys, well, I'm going to give you some free hints, okay? Some free hints that hopefully will help you determine or start to think about where some of these colors might be and what the dimensions are for those colors. You guys may want to add a key on the side of your page so that you can keep track of the colors. Okay, B is going to be for blue. Well, you might not need to do that because you guys should be coloring it in, but I'm just going to remind you of our colors since my teacher master is kind of covered up with me showing my grid. And then we have purple, green, blue, and red. Those are the colors that you guys need to have out and ready so that you can color along with me. Now, I told you I was going to give you some free hints, so here we go. Here are your free hints. I'm going to start off with, let's do 10-1. And remember, the very first number represents the column, and the second number represents the row, okay? So if I'm talking about 10-1, that means I'm going to go over 10, and I'm in that very first row, and 10-1 just so happens to be blue. All right, so you guys can color in your 10-1. Here's one free hint for you. I know that when I'm starting a puzzle, I like to figure out the corners first, and that kind of helps me piece some other things together, which is why I gave you a corner as a free hint. I'm also going to give you one in the middle, which is 5, 5. So I'm going to go to the fifth row up to the fifth column. And that, my friends, is red. So my coloring hopefully doesn't look as good as your coloring because you guys should be able to color and color fairly quickly, but coloring on a computer sometimes, not fun. Okay, so there's your second free hint. Are you ready for your third? All right, so we got one corner, we got a middle. Let's get the other corner, which is 1, 10, and that is going to be purple. Now that I've given you some hints, you guys are going to have to use some knowledge. That means you have to turn on your math brains if they're not on already. Hopefully they are. To think about how can I use these clues to help me figure out where the blue squares are, red squares, or the red rectangle, blue rectangle, and the purple rectangle. Notice I didn't give you any hint with green. So based on what we can find out with our other colors, hopefully that'll help us figure out green. So I will say that blue is 20 square units. So let's think about that. If it's 20 square units, what are some possible dimensions? What are some factors of 20? Good. 1 times 20. Right. Do you think a 1 by 20 would work for our grid? No. What would a 1 by 20 look like? Right, it'll be really long and skinny because we'd only have one row or one column of 20. And this only goes up to 10. So it definitely couldn't be 1 times 20. What are some other factors of 20? Factor pairs. Good, we have 2 times 10 or, right, 4 times 5. So which one would you like to start with? Would you like, if it's let me ask you this. if it was a 4 by 5, that means what could possibly be one of our pairs here? We know this is blue. Are you thinking a 6-4? Maybe? Right, so it could be, maybe, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 4. That's a 5 by 4, 4 by 5. Or we could do 1, 2, 3, 4, and go up 5. So since we know this is red, should we try maybe a 7 by 5? Let's try 7 by 5. So here's the deal. Now that I've given you your 3 free hints, based on our conversations, which I know may feel a little funny because we're doing it virtually, so I'm kind of guessing about things that you may be thinking, and then hoping that you're saying certain things. So when you tell me, or when I kind of guess what you might be saying, a pair, I'm not going to tell you what the color is. I'm just going to color it in, and then hopefully that'll help you readjust your thinking about the dimensions, okay? So if you were to think 7, 5, because that could be a 4 by 5, I am going to tell you that, well, actually, I'm just going to color it in for you. Here would be 7, 5. Not blue. Now you should be coloring yours in with me, okay? So we know that 4 by 5 was one option. And so here's our 4 by 5. Or we could say a 5 by 4, so then we could go 6, 4, because that would give us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 4 here. So if I were to do 6, 4, this is what it would look like. Change your thinking at all? What did we say the factor pairs were for 20? 1 times 20, which couldn't work for this picture. 2 times 10, we hadn't tried that yet. And 4 times 5. So maybe what should we try next? 2 times 10, right? So here's 10. Should we do a 1 by 1 to see if here's our 10 down here? One other thing I should say is that the colors are all together. Okay, it's not going to be blue here, blue here, blue here, blue here. That adds up to the 20. It's going to be all together. So let's try maybe the 1 by 1. If you're thinking 1 by 1, because maybe you're thinking a 2 by 10 could go this way, here's our 1 by 1. Right, so it can't go that way. So maybe let's try a 10 by 10. Let's see. You guys nailed it. So if we know now, based on our factor pairs, then what are the dimensions for our blue area? Yeah, a 2 by 10. So we can shape all of this in blue. Go ahead and do that. All right, so now that we know our blue space, can we make predictions for our red space, for our purple space, for our green space? Let's start with purple. Purple has a area of 12 square units. So what are some dimensions of 12? Or factor pairs? Yeah, 2 times 6, 4 times 3. So let's check it out. If it was a 2 by 6, then that means we could have a 2 by 6 this way. Would it make sense to have a 2 by 6 this way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's possible. Let's try it. So if I did a 6 by 10, my color is going to be red, actually. So we know that our 2 by 6 is not going to happen this way. Okay, so our 2 by 6 could go this way. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe a 1 by 5. Oh, getting closer. The 1 by 5 is indeed purple. So, so our dimension probably is a 2 by 6. Awesome. You can color that in. Go ahead and color it. All right, so we have purple, we have blue. Let's look for red, maybe. 36 square units. We know red is here, we have red here. What are some factor pairs of 36? 12 times 3, which we know can't be for this picture, right? Okay, what else for 36? Right, we have a 4 by 9. 4 times 9 is 36. So let's see, we know red's up here, we know red's here, and then we have green here. And they are rectangles. They're not funky looking shapes, okay? So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possibly. And then 6 going up. So could it be a 4 by 9? No, so what are you thinking? Yeah, a 6 by 6. That's exactly right. Here is our red section, which leaves us with only one color, which is the color that I didn't give you for your free hint, and that is green, and we know the area for green is 32 square units. Would that work out to have a 4 by 8? Is that 32? Yeah, so we didn't even really have to think too hard about that one once we figured out all the other colors. Great job. Hopefully you're filling yours in with me. And if you're still coloring yours in, that's fine, but I just want to talk with you about some of the math that we had to do today. What did you know when we started this mystery grid? Right, you knew the area, which is the product of a multiplication problem. So what did we actually have to think about? And you may have heard me say it multiple times throughout this video. Right, factor pairs. We know what the product is, so we have to figure out what two numbers multiply together to give us that product. So we reviewed factors. We did do it kind of like a puzzle because we knew it all fit together. We also talked about coordinates. So remember I said if we had a pair like 6, 3 or 8, 4, or I gave you the hint 6, 4, or not, that wasn't a hint, that was one of your guesses. But the first number was the column and the second number was the row. Those are actually coordinates. So we threw in some coordinates today for our number corner. Wasn't that fun? I enjoyed it. So if you enjoyed it as much as I did, there is a second mystery grid there in your number corner journal that you can use to come up with your own mystery grid. And then maybe you can have a friend or a partner do exactly what we did to figure out what the dimensions could be for each of the colors. Remember, if you're doing that, they are all rectangles and they all fit perfectly together to make a total area of 100 square units. Great job today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a good afternoon.